all of your assumptions about personal safety, about trust, about being able to predict what you're going to do this time tomorrow, it's all gone. So the path to recovering from that means that you have to integrate. You have to accept that the world you live in isn't safe any. It never was safe.
Right.
It's not safe anymore. It never was safe.
Right.
That was that blind piece.
Okay.
So that's really, really a challenge. And when you have children who are traumatized and adults who are traumatized, teachers, parents, it's a very, very difficult situation. So with our family, we went through a lot of tough times, and we would get from family and friends across the country. They would say, "Well, are you over it yet?" And I would finally got to the point, or they would say, "Is everything back to normal? Are you over it yet?" And I had a friend, and we would talk about it, and we would always say, "Just don't get it. They just don't get it." And I finally decided, it's asking me if I'm over it is like asking me if I'm over being short.
Right.
It's now part of who I am.
Yeah.
It's part of this experience.
Right.
We are all experience is all part of who we are.
Right.
So I decided, in a blinding flash of midlife crisis, you've heard of adolescent
Sure.
rebellion. Well, this was midlife rebellion.
Okay.
That I would go back to school and get a doctorate for the simple purpose of writing a dissertation, doing research that the education community and that the social work and the psychological community and the law enforcement and anyone in any community planning role would not be able to dismiss as just the work of a Columbine mom. Because I knew it had to have some standards and rigor,
Right.
and I committed to doing that. So I did, and I did my dissertation on the experiences of Columbine parents. The subtitle of that was, Finding a Way to Tomorrow, because that was what that experience was like. And I researched within my own community the experience that I had access to. What I learned, I don't want to say in any way that it's exclusive to Columbine, or Columbine is the only one that deserves study.
Right.
A child who is in an inner city alleyway who is either gunned down or seen someone assaulted, there is huge trauma there.
Absolutely.
Huge trauma.
And there's numbness.
And there's
after a
numbness.
while, it's numbness.
Grief and loss go together, and there's all kinds of situations that impact socialization, being able to have friends, being able to
Right.
trust friends. The big one that I'm focusing on right now is how do kids learn? Because to learn, when your brain and everything about yourself is under stress, trauma and fear really make it hard to have long-term, short-term memory. Things get all scrambled. If you can't focus on it, there really are chemical changes in the brain.
Sure.
Okay, so memory is impacted, behavior, you have regression to earlier behaviors, so that you might have a sixth grader who now starts acting very, very childish, and acts like a first or a second grader, and all of those norms of behavior in a school get blown out of the water,
Right.
quite literally. You have language difficulties. It's called aphasia, which is this wonderful word to say you can't come up with the right word.
Right.
So I might say, I'm sitting here in this, and I can't come up with the word chair.
Mm-hmm.
So I substitute another word that makes no sense. But it's even the simple words that we use, we can't access them because the brain is under stress.
Wow.
And there's all of this. You've got adrenaline constantly roaring through your system. And for kids, when there has been a disaster at a school, they're back at the scene of the crime, or back at the scene of the tragedy, of the loss. If it was a fire, if it was a killing in the parking lot, or a teacher has a heart attack, or a parent commits suicide.
Come back to it.
You come back to it, and you're in the same place. You have the same visual cues. You have the same sensory cues. It reminds you. I heard stories from teachers who were at Columbine who said they had served burritos at lunch that day, who have not been able to eat a burrito since,
I,
because that was associated with that event.
I remember in regards to Jonesboro, when we had a chance to go over there and talk with some of the faculty members and things, and how they finally had to move out of the wing that they were
Yes.
in. They had to move the faculty around
Right,
because they
right.
could not teach in those
No,
same classrooms.
no.
They had to move them around, and over time, attrition of just staff coming in and out. I mean, some just emotionally, it forever affected
Forever,
them.
right,
It wasn't
right,
are you
right.
over it? I mean, I so
You-
appreciate
yeah,
what you're saying
yeah,
there, because
yeah.
that is a huge deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And even colors. I mean, I still, when I think of Columbine High School, I think of driving up there that one day, and I mean, I live in the community.
Sure,
We didn't
sure.
move, but the windows are kind of frosted green,
Okay.
and I see that, and I just wanted them at least to change the color of those windows, because that was the color that somehow was associated in my mind with what happened, and not what happened, but it was like the visual cue that I see.
Right.
And so all of the things that happen afterwards, people do rush in to help, and that is a bad thing.
Right.
It is not always a good thing.
Right.
And the media is there, and then it's you see 10 years, 11 years down the road, we're still seeing pictures of children fleeing up the hill, the shooting from Columbine,
Sure.
and that's the window that my son climbed out of
Right.
to escape.
Yeah.
And you're watching, some ridiculous sitcom, and all of a sudden the news comes on. There's been another shooting someplace else, and they run old footage,
Oh, absolutely.
and there it is. And so you're blindsided.
It's the same
So it's that piece around sensitivity and respect.
Mhm.
And I think in part of planning and prevention and, the planning that goes into the forethought of how to prevent these things from happening, I think it also requires that you think about, well, how are we going to handle it if something does happen?
Right.
You can't prevent tornadoes. You can't prevent there's certain vulnerabilities that we as human beings have.
Yeah.
So my part, and actually in thinking about some of the things that help people survive really difficult times, in terms of relationship,
Right.
in terms of building trust, in terms of having at least one person in their world that they think cares about them.
That is. I'm gonna close it
That'll
right
help.
there, because here's why. Because when you said relationship, that reminded me that we also heard from some very successful schools that
Mhm.
that they're in some areas that everyone would think, oh, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen here. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
concern. There's some very high risk situations in the cities they live in, but there's a school, and their main word is attachment.
Right.
Relationship, attachment, something that child needs to connect somewhere.
Right.
For those who are being bullied, someone's got to be there that does love on them.
Mm-hmm.
For those who have challenges, who don't have an active parent involvement at home, they need somebody at that school that says, we want you to come here, and we're here for you.
And
there needs
exactly,
to be
we're here for
relationship
you.
and attachment right there.
And that helps prevent, and it helps
Absolutely.
recover.
Yep,
And I want to say just
absolutely.
one thing
That's
real
fine.
quick. As far as where this happens,
Mhm.
it has never happened in an urban area, in the high crime zones where you think it might.
Right,
It has always been rural and suburban.
right, right. When it came to school, when it came to that type of violence.
When it comes to
has
that kind
been-
of violence.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So.
So from tragedy,
Mhm.
we learn a lot.
We do.
And hopefully we're able to do great things because of tragedy. But it's hard.
Well, it gives you a new worldview, and
Yeah.
it gives you an incredible. It also gives you an incredible view of what people can mean and what people can do to help others.
Right.
It's transformative. It really is.
That's it. Thank
So-
you for joining us on
Thank
our
you.
video blog, Ms. Carol.
Thank you.